So what happens when you fall in love? But you're a writer, and you just can't stop turning every single moment into text. Can you really live an experience if you're always, one step removed, watching it, taking notes for the page? That's what we're going to explore here, this fascinating conflict between love, attention, and the battle between the living moment and the written word.
Everything really kicks off with this one, single, powerful idea from the ancient Greeks, hapte. Now, it doesn't just mean touch, like, simple physical contact. It also means ignition. The idea here is that every touch has the potential to start something new, to set something on fire. It's a beginning. It's a spark.
And to make this real, to ground it, the story gives us this really visceral memory from our narrator. As a kid, she touches a stove element, thinking it's safe, and it's not. The result? A permanent scar, a physical reminder of hapte. It's this brilliant illustration of how the very same surface can be both safe and dangerous, and how one little touch can become this defining, catastrophic event. And that scar, well, that becomes our central metaphor.
Okay, so let's see how this ignition actually plays out. This first section is all about how a connection really begins, not just with a physical touch, but with something even more intense, the act of just paying attention.
Our narrator, who's a writer, meets Lena, a philosopher, at a dinner party. And she is just immediately captivated. Not by something Lena says, but by how Lena listens. To a piece of bread, of all things. It's this intense, really unusual kind of focus that creates the first spark. The narrator is watching Lena's attention, and in that simple act of observation, desire ignites.
And then we get the first physical contact, and it's centered right on that scar. Lena touches it, and she makes this, biological observation. Scar tissue, fewer nerve endings, you feel less. But the narrator's response is so important. No, I feel differently. See it? Right there, in that tiny little moment, the whole conflict is set up. It's the gap between an objective fact and a subjective experience.
All right, let's build on that, because this is where it gets really interesting. In this story, desire doesn't actually live in the contact itself. It lives in the spaces between the contact. To really get this idea, the story uses this amazing metaphor from ancient poetry. The poet Sappho's work only exists in these little fragments, with huge gaps in the text. But here's the thing, those gaps aren't empty. They're invitations for our imagination to jump in and fill them. The missing parts, the words that aren't there, they actually become this really powerful source of desire and creativity.
And this gap gets a name, the interval. I mean, think about it. That electric feeling when you're close to someone you're drawn to. The air between you. It doesn't feel empty, does it? No way. It feels charged, dense, like a real thing. Well, that's the interval. That's where desire truly lives.
And this quote, wow. It just makes that whole abstract idea feel incredibly real, doesn't it? The air becomes a body, the gap becomes a flesh. It's such a powerful way to get that the space between people isn't a void. It's the very stuff where connection and desire actually take form.
But this is where all the beauty of that interval starts to get really complicated. We're at the absolute heart of the conflict now. The narrator's obsession with turning every single one of these moments, the touch, the space, the desire, into writing.
You see, for our narrator, an experience isn't truly real until it's been written down. It's like the moment itself is just raw data, and only the text, the log, can make it valid. This isn't just a habit for her. She literally calls it a pathology. She's completely unable to just live a moment without also observing it and documenting it.
And she even has this whole process for it, the touch log. I mean, just look at how systematic this is. A raw experience happens, it's immediately followed by observation, which is then converted into text. The living, breathing moment is just consumed by the act of describing it. There's no space left to just feel.
And Lena, the philosopher who's all about attention, she sees this right away, and she challenges the narrator, just directly. Her plea is so simple, but it's profound. Just let an experience be the experience. Let the touching be the end of it. And this just cranks up the tension between their two ways of being in the world. This slide, it just lays the whole conflict out so clearly, right? On one side, you have pure living, just dissolving into the moment. On the other, you have writing, observing everything from the outside. It's the thing itself versus the description of the thing. And for our narrator, those two have become totally impossible to separate.
And look, this isn't just some philosophical argument in a coffee shop. This conflict has real emotional consequences. This is the part of the story where the narrator's need to write everything down starts to feel like a form of betrayal. So that brings us to this absolutely devastating central question. When you love someone who is alive and growing and changing, what happens when you turn them into material for your writing? And here is the gut punch of an answer from Lena. The narrator has captured her perfectly in writing. But that perfection, that's the problem. The written Lena is static. She's fixed, like a beautiful butterfly that's been pinned in a display case. It's perfect, but it's no longer alive. This gets right to the heart of the paradox, doesn't it? You can write something that is 100% accurate about a person in one moment, but that very accuracy becomes a kind of lie the next day, when that person is already changed. The text freezes them, but life, by its very nature, is all about constant motion.
So, where does that leave our narrator? After all that, what does she do? Let's move to our final section and see how she resolves this completely impossible conflict. This is where she finally has to confront who she really is.
In the end, she makes a choice, and it might not be the one you expect. She can't stop. Lena's plea to stop the log is impossible for her because writing isn't just something she does, it's who she is. To stop turning her life into text would be like erasing herself. So she chooses her nature, her pathology. She chooses the scar.
And this is her final, incredible realization. The scar isn't a flaw that needs to be healed. It's a lens. It's a unique way of seeing the world. It's a door that feeling enters through, just differently. She accepts it. She is the scar. She is the text. And that really leaves us with a provocative final thought, doesn't it? Can a way of seeing the world that seems like a wound also be a profound and necessary way of creating?